earlier. Boots on the ground.
Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it. Touchdown.
They're going to have a defensive end out there.
3rd and 1. Rodgers under pressure again and just has to flip it, and it is going to be gone.
Jones has 98 of them. Play fake here, though. Rodgers going for it all, looking to break it open. He's got it. Lazard gonna go. Touchdown. They're able to change.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of the Titletown Lounge podcast. I am your humble host, Rhino. You can find me on Twitter at Sports Talk Rhino. Of course, I'm joined by my humble host, who is actually right over here on my corner, Brandon. You can find him on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. And of course, the podcast itself you can find on Twitter at Titletown Lounge. We are here on site live at Coyote Bar and Grill in Belgium, Wisconsin. You can hear the crowd behind us. They're having a good time, drinking Dollar Busch Lights, eating amazing food. So if you're in the area, stop on by, have some food with us, ask us some questions. It's a great place here in Belgium. July 27th, Luna Yotes is having Taco Tuesday featuring Luna's Tankeria. Tacos will be cooked here at Coyotes Bar and Grill in Belgium. So we are happy to be here. This is our second live show on site, and we've got a lot to unpack today. As you can see, we do have our Bucks stuff on. Brandon and I are NBA champions. Bucks and 6, baby. Bucks and 6. We are NBA champions, so we are going to rep the Milwaukee Bucks today on the show. But this is a Packers show, and we do have a lot to unpack here. Let's just take it back to the beginning, about a week and a half ago. We'll go through the entire timeline and just kind of cover everything and then give our thoughts on that. So throughout this entire offseason of pretty much crap and bad news, we did have a silver lining moment last week when we heard that Davante Adams was negotiating his new contract with the front office of the Green Bay Packers. And it was good news. We were happy about it. We were sure that they were going to get a deal done because whenever they negotiate with a big name player, they usually always get a deal done. And then, of course, there was the passive-aggressive comments by Davante Adams on Instagram. You had the response to the Bleacher Report article about him negotiating where he commented to Cap. And then, of course, you had the Instagram story about him wanting to call people out and whatnot. And then, of course, Tuesday, because for some reason Adam Schefter does not know how to keep his mouth shut when there is a big sporting event, especially in Wisconsin, he tweeted out that Aaron Rodgers had declined a 2-year extension offer that would have made him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And then 3 days later, we got the news that contract negotiations had broken off with Davante Adams. So it's a never-ending story. Just like the banner says, it's days of our lives. It's nothing but a soap opera in Green Bay. Now, Brandon, what the hell is going on with these guys?
Well, Rhino, good morning, good afternoon. Shout out to Coyote again for having us out here. It's such a great place. The Bloody Marys are flowing. Again, like Rhino said, we are world champions. We are celebrating this Bucks championship for the city of Milwaukee and for the state of Wisconsin. It feels so good to to hopefully break the curse, and hopefully that curse carries on to the Packers year going into the training camp. As the banner says, days of our lives. I don't know what's going on, and to be quite honest with you, I'm absolutely sick and tired of it. We just watched a guy, and I apologize in advance because I probably will reference Giannis way more times than I need to, but we just watched a guy that decided to kind of put his money where his mouth was, who signed up for the long-term stay in Milwaukee, picked the team that took a chance on him and took that team to win a championship. And the same thing kind of runs into Aaron Rodgers. If he's mad that the Packers drafted his replacement, get over it. You were in that same position just a handful of years ago, a decade and a half ago, in 2005. It's become a soap opera. If you're so concerned with winning championships, if winning is so important to you, if winning Super Bowls is so important to you, just look down south in Tampa Bay and what Tom Brady is doing. Okay, look what he's working in the offseason. I don't care about your vacations in Hawaii. I don't care if you're going to go off to Peru, wherever the heck you may go. This is you want to win, you want to be here in Green Bay, we want to be considered a winner. You've got one Super Bowl. Congratulations. That was a decade ago. do the things that you need to do. If winning is important to you, stop with the Instagram posts. Stop with the passive aggressive behavior towards the franchise that has given up a lot for you. Keep in mind the drama that ensued Green Bay in 2008, going into that first year with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. They drafted Hall of Fame type players. Yes, they maybe didn't make every move that was perfect. News flash here, Aaron Rodgers. Not every franchise has. I mean, there's a lot of franchises that have made mistakes, but along the way, you have the best left tackle in football. You have the best receiver in football. You have a top 10 defense. You have a top 3 running back. When you say it's about the people, who are you talking about? Are you talking about Jake Kummerow? Like, are we really that mad about Jake Kummerow? Because when it comes down to it in that NFC Championship game, you, my friend, Aaron Rodgers, listener of the show, hashtag friend of show, Aaron Rodgers, you haven't performed the way you need to perform in order to win that big game. And I'm absolutely sick and tired of you acting like this franchise owes you something. They don't. And I've never been a guy to pick one side or the other. I've never, for this whole process, I've tried my hardest to remain kind of in the middle. And now I'm leaning heavily almost towards the franchise because they've made mistakes. Unfortunately, that's the reality of life. We all look back and we wish we did things differently. But we also understand that you have it pretty darn good. You say it's about the people. They've signed your best friend. You got your best receiver in football. I'm absolutely at my end with it. I think it's just, it's going to be an offseason again where we go into training camp. Number one, Rhino, we don't know if he's going to be there in a couple of days. If he's not there, that's all you're going to hear about going forward. And you're going to hear after practice people talking to Jordan Love. What's it like not having Aaron Rodgers? Matt LaFleur, what's it like? It's going to be a dark cloud over this team. Whether he shows up or he doesn't, really, until they get it figured out. And again, we still don't know what it is. I have no idea. I mean, we have somewhat, I guess, of an idea. He wants money. He wants guaranteed money. He's mad about certain people being cut. I don't know. But I'm absolutely, I don't know about you, and I'm sure you are as well, and everybody that's listening, I'm absolutely over my end with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I'm at a point now where I'm sick of both sides. I mean, there are obvious issues with the front office as well that we don't know about. There's a reason why these marquee players, the best quarterback in the NFL, the best wide receiver in the NFL, have issues re-signing contract extensions and negotiating with the team. It's not all just Adams and all just Rodgers. Now, I agree the behavior between these two guys have been very petty, it's just a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to touch on Rodgers here in a minute. I'd like to start with Davante Adams and what his thought process is, what his thinking is, and why he all of a sudden broke these contract negotiations. We obviously don't have any kind of solid dollar figures of what that extension offer was, but I think it's not outside of the realm of possibility that the Packers wanted to make him the highest paid wide receiver in football. My personal belief here is that there's some sort of communication going on between Rodgers and Adams. I think the reason why contract negotiations broke off with Adams is because he's there, texting, calling Rodgers, being like, hey, man, what's going on with you? Are you signing your extension? Are you wanting to stay in Green Bay long term? I'm not going to stay if you don't stay. So I think that's why there's the cloud of doubt over Adams right now. I think, and the thing that irritates me the most is Adams had the humble comments in his press conference a couple of weeks ago about how he wouldn't hold out. He came from nothing. He's not gonna pass on the opportunity of getting his money. Well, here the organization is trying to make you the highest paid wide receiver in football, and negotiations all of a sudden magically broke off after months of contract talks between Adams and the front office. I mean, we knew that they were discussing contract negotiations 2 months ago during OTAs. We knew that was happening. We knew that talks picked up a week ago and they were getting more serious. And now all of a sudden, when the Adam Schefter report broke on Tuesday that Rodgers had turned down a contract extension that would have made him the highest paid quarterback in football, it's just way too coincidental to me that 3 days later, contract negotiations break off with Adams as well. So it's my contention that there's obviously some sort of communication going on between Rodgers and between Adams that is preventing him from signing that extension. Now, does that mean an extension is impossible, that it'll never happen? No, that's not what that means. It could mean that Adams plays his last year in Green Bay, the last year on his contract, and they continue negotiations next offseason. I've made the comment that whether Rodgers is there or not, it's going to depend on how the team does in 2021. I think if they win a Super Bowl, I actually think Adams is gone if they win a Super Bowl. If they're right there in contention and, they're in another NFC championship game and, Jordan Love continues his progression during this training camp, during this preseason, the possibility is there for Adams to still sign with Green Bay and still stay in Green Bay. But I think the light at the end of the tunnel for Adams is just as dim as it is for Rodgers. I don't think Adams will be back in 2022. I don't think Rodgers will be back in 2022. But the pettiness on Instagram, the pettiness on social media, be grown men. You're millionaires. Come out and say you want to play, or come out and say you're going to play one final year and figure things out next year. We don't need the last dance pictures of the Bulls at the same time on each other's Instagram stories. We don't need the comments to Bleacher Report articles with just the cap emoji. We don't need the Instagram stories saying, "Oh, I could call some people out, but I'm not going to." Well, then call them out. Don't tell us you could call somebody out. If you have something to say it. If you don't have something to say, don't make these passive-aggressive posts on social media and make a bigger story, because the only thing that you're doing at the end of the day, and this is a question that I want to answer because this is actually a really good question. Adam Kunos chimes in on the chat. What are your thoughts on the clubhouse atmosphere with this? I can tell you right now, there's at least 24 guys on this team that are looking at this thinking it's complete bullshit. What kind of distraction are you creating for this locker room before the season even starts when you're making these passive-aggressive posts on social media? Either play or don't play. Show up or don't show up. Work or don't work. There's 52 other guys on this team that are prepared to come to camp and put in the work and try and go win a Super Bowl. They don't have time, and we don't have time for the crap on social media. Either say you're going to play or say you're not going to play.
Yeah, and that's when that's the question I have for guys like Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams. First off, don't put a picture of yourself on the 90s Bulls. You haven't won anything together. You've done nothing. I don't care if you got 58 touchdowns since 2016. I don't care. You didn't do anything. You didn't show up when you needed to show up most. And that, again, is the NFC Championship game at home. Again, where you said you wanted it to go. For a guy that is consistently Aaron Rodgers, that is talking about what he doesn't have or what he needs or what he doesn't want, everything was in your court in January of 2021. You had everything right there. For a guy that claims that winning is everything to him, you're spending more time on Instagram. You're spending more time making these passive-aggressive comments in Hawaii while you're on vacation with your hippie girlfriend, doing things that guys that really want to win aren't doing. You do not see this happen. You do not see the craziest thing you saw, and I do not like Tom Brady. You saw him drunk at his parade celebration for the Super Bowl. Other than that, what has he been doing? Working at OTAs, at mini camps. I get it. You don't want to be there. Okay. Prove it, though. You haven't done. You obviously need something because you haven't been able to win in that game. That big game where it counts. So again, I understand you don't want to be at OTAs or mini camps and you want to do your thing in the offseason. Okay, then come out, be a man. Look, it's not going to take an hour-long press conference. Come up with a statement. This is your intentions. This is what you want. This whole state of Wisconsin has always had his back. There's been a really big fan following for him with the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers thing, and it kind of came down between whose side are you on. A lot of people took Brett Favre's side. Aaron Rodgers has said multiple times, I don't want a situation that kind of happened in 2008. Well, this, in my opinion, is almost worse because again, you have a darn good team. You have a top 3 roster in the NFL, and if winning is important to you, if your legacy, which he has said is of importance to him, then what are you doing to provide that going forward? What are you doing? You're on Instagram. You and Davante have now Aaron Jones and Robert Tunyon Jr. on Instagram with the Bull 90s Bulls. Don't reference yourself with the Chicago Bulls. You're not Michael Jordan. You're not even Scottie Pippen. You haven't done anything outside of win one Super Bowl. That was the most magical Super Bowl run in maybe history of Super Bowls. I mean, as a 6 seed, barely getting in, and we all know the story. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm going to be real honest with you. Watching Giannis win that championship in the fashion in which he did, coming out and saying, this is my city, this is my home, and winning a championship. And as a Packer fan, Packers were my first love. Watching Giannis win that championship, I don't care anymore what Rodgers says. It doesn't matter. Giannis took a chance on little town Milwaukee, 4th smallest market in the NBA. He didn't have a fortified number 2. He didn't go on Instagram and say, I need it's about the people and not shave his head for 2 years. It wasn't about any of that. He did it his way. He did it the hard way. And he proved that it's possible to do it. And now we're watching a diva, again, another diva. We called Brett Favre a diva as well in 2007, 2008. Now we're watching him do exactly the same thing, maybe even worse. And we're talking about a team that's really contenders to win a Super Bowl. I mean, they're right there. And again, he says it's about the people, but all those guys that he's talking about, for his, David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, Kenny Clark, maybe Devontae Adams, they're all still in Green Bay. They got long-term deals. David Bakhtiari was the highest paid left tackle. Aaron Jones is the top 3 paid running back in the NFL. I mean, again, newsflash, again, for everybody that's out there, the Green Bay Packers cannot sign everybody. Okay, the cap took, with COVID, took $30 million dip. I mean, for a guy that says winning is everything, you're at 40% of the cap. What are you doing to let your team be better? I don't want to hear you say, I want to win, and then have the Green Bay Packers pay you 40%. I'm absolutely sick of it. What are you going to do to win? You're getting paid 40% of the salary. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of him walking around here like he's invincible. You haven't won anything. I'll take a break.
We're getting some applause from Brandon's lovely mother. As you can see, Brandon is obviously animated about this, and rightfully so. I want to play devil's advocate for a minute here. I know we have some emotions and feelings about Aaron Rodgers and the situation that's going on there. I want to play devil's advocate for a second, and I want to speak on the front office and if there is a potential issue with the front office. I mean, we could potentially be looking at an issue with Mark Murphy. I mean, that is something we have to consider. We do have to consider the fact that maybe Mark Murphy is creating a culture, creating a situation in Green Bay that people don't actually want to be a part of. Now, obviously, your lower end guys, your second, your third strings, or maybe your lower paid guys may not have a problem with it because they're just happy to be there. They're happy to collect their check. They're happy to be a professional athlete. But when you get to the level that Devontae Adams is, when you get to the level that Aaron Rodgers is, where, maybe money isn't 100% the biggest deal to you, or you have that prowess as the best in the league at your position, you're in a scenario where you don't actually have to put up with things that you don't like. You don't have to put up with an environment that you don't want to be a part of. So there is that scenario out there where maybe Mark Murphy is at least somewhat part of the problem. Maybe not the entire problem, but maybe he is a part of the problem. We have heard some comments from Aaron Rodgers where, it's a culture thing. It's a people thing. In Green Bay, there was the report, obviously, that he wanted Mark Murphy gone. And then you have Devontae Adams, who made the passive-aggressive comments on Instagram about how he could call some people out. He could, bring some issues to the forefront. So if there is a culture problem in Green Bay, if there is a people problem in Green Bay, you're really walking a tightrope at that point on what direction the franchise is going to be able to go in. Because if ultimately at the end of the day, right now, odds are Rodgers and Adams are gone after the 2021 season. That seems like the most likely scenario. I think that Rodgers shows up on Tuesday when the veterans report. Adams has already been there, obviously, and he said publicly that he's not going to hold out. And I do believe him when he says I'm not going to hold out. I think the most likely scenario is that the last dance picture means this is their last dance. This is their last season in Green Bay for both of them. At that point, if you continue forward in 2022 without Rodgers, without Adams on the team, and then all of a sudden Zadarius Smith has an issue being in Green Bay, or Kenny Clark has an issue being in Green Bay, or Jair Alexander has an issue being in Green Bay, at what point do you finally say, okay, what is going on with this team, and why is so many people having a problem being there? I think the first finger you point is in the direction of Mark Murphy. It has to be. People like Brian Gutekunst. He's doing a good job. He's brought in some great players. People obviously love Matt LaFleur. He's been a great coach in Green Bay his 2 seasons there, 13-3 in back-to-back seasons, NFC Championship game appearances in back-to-back seasons. There's only one other high-profile figure that's left in Green Bay that you can point a figure at, and that's Mark Murphy. And the one defining characteristic that Mark Murphy has that no other personnel official has is he was there during the Brett Favre saga too. He now has 2 all-time great quarterback issues, drama. And he's the only X factor between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. He's the only remaining X factor. It's not Mike McCarthy. It's not Ted Thompson. Obviously, Ted Thompson's gone. It's Mark Murphy. So at what point do you finally say, okay, maybe it is Murphy. Maybe we need to consider getting a new president? I mean, what would you look for you to start considering that?
Here's my question, though. What has Murphy done wrong? What has Brian Gutekunst done wrong? Was it trade in the draft and arguably get and draft the best cornerback in football in Jair Alexander? Was it drafting a possible superstar edge rusher in Rashawn Gary? We saw flashes of it last year. Was it possibly drafting for the future with Jordan Love? My question is, what have they done wrong? Now, everybody, that's on Rodgers' side. Well, they didn't make Rodgers happy. How? You had the home field advantage at the NFC Championship game. You have the best receiver. You have the best left tackle. You have the best, one of the top 3, maybe top 2 defensive linemen in the NFL. What haven't they done? He's built up the area around Green Bay. What I understand that maybe he's not maybe a people person, maybe comes off the wrong way. But as an organization standpoint, what has Brian Gutekunst, Mark Murphy, what have they done wrong? Not tell Aaron Rodgers that they were going to draft somebody? Because go back to the article, Pete Doherty, Jordan Love wasn't on their draft board. They were trying to trade up in that draft for multiple different guys, and it didn't happen. The draft board fell the way it fell. They called Aaron Rodgers. As soon as they knew what they were going to do, they called him because they know he has thin skin. So again, what has Murphy, Gutekunst, what have they done wrong?
Let me interject real quick right there, because this is the point that I've made on our show a couple of times. So when it comes to drafting Jordan Love, yes, they may have called him, right afterwards or right then and there and said, hey, we're going to take this quarterback who, we had on our board. It might have been 3 or 4, but I have made this point before. I think that Aaron Rodgers at least deserved the respect. He doesn't deserve an input. He doesn't deserve, an opinion on personnel moves. He shouldn't have that power where, like, hey, I think we should take this guy. I think we should go out and get this guy. He doesn't necessarily deserve that power. But after 16 years, after 3 MVPs, or 2 at the time, 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl championship, I think he at least deserved the respect of calling him a week before the draft or 3 days, 4 days before the draft and saying, hey, look, we don't intend to take a quarterback with our first overall pick or our first round pick, but there's a possibility that we might. We're targeting this guy, and then we're targeting this guy afterwards. But if the board falls in a particular way and this is the guy that's there, we are going to draft him. I think Rodgers did deserve that respect. And that was his point. I think that was his point back with the Brett Favre issue, is they didn't tell Brett Favre that they were taking Rodgers. Now, obviously, it was a different draft scenario because Rodgers fell. Jordan Love didn't fall. They moved up to get Jordan Love. Rodgers fell. But it's the same principle in terms of drafting your all-time great quarterback's replacement. And that's exactly what this scenario was, drafting your all-time quarterback's replacement. And they could have told him. They could have said, hey, man, there is a small possibility we are going to draft your heir apparent. And I think that is something that Rodgers deserved to hear in advance. I don't think that he should have found out they were drafting Jordan Love when he saw the draft unfold. And I don't think he deserved that phone call 2 minutes afterwards. He deserved a little bit more than that. And I that's why there's a small portion of me, there's a small percentage of me that thinks there is a little bit of blame to go around in the front office. I mean, if that's how they conduct business with drafting the replacement of your quarterback, then maybe there is an issue. I mean, the Jake Kumro thing, I don't think his beef was the fact that they just got rid of Jake Kumro. I mean, we all know that Jake Kumro was not an all-star wide receiver. He wasn't going to be a Pro Bowler. He wasn't going to be the next Jordy Nelson. We all know that. I think it's the principle behind the fact that it was literally a day after Rodgers had publicly made comments about Kumro, about how much he liked Kumro, about how much he had developed in the preseason and during training camp, et cetera, et cetera. And then a day later, they cut him without even saying something to Rodgers. I know it's petty and I know it's a little much, but at the same time, how do you think that makes Rodgers look in the public spotlight? That he's going to go out and publicly defend a guy, publicly make comments in support of a guy, and then a day later he's cut. Now, that's not one of those scenarios where Rodgers should have had the input. I'm not saying that the Green Bay Packers should have been like, hey, should we keep Kumaro? Do you want to have Kumaro on the roster? No. Rodgers should not have that kind of power. However, they obviously knew they were going to get rid of Kumaro. They could have said, hey, guy, listen, we're probably not going to keep him on the roster. Our plan right now is to get rid of him as soon as we can. I think that's the respect that Aaron Rodgers deserves after 16 seasons of literally being one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback to ever walk the planet. And it's the same principle with the draft. And those are just two situations we know of. Who's to say there aren't more scenarios behind the scenes that exist like that? So that's why, me personally, obviously I'm not taking the side of Aaron Rodgers or Davante Adams anymore, but I'm also not taking the side of the front office. We have no idea what's going on. And the problem with this is I think we're going to start finding out more and more what's really going on behind the scenes as the season unfolds. I mean, we're not done with the Adam Schefter bombs. We're not done with the bad news. We're not done with the negativity. Something's going to come up week 4. Something's going to come up week 8. And I think something's probably going to come up if they make the playoffs. You're going to continue to hear, oh, this is going on. This is going on. And that's on top of the cloud of will you be back? I mean, I guarantee you every single post-game interview, if Rodgers is there, if Adams is there, and with Matt LaFleur as well, every single post-game interview, you're going to hear, do you know what your plans are for next season? Are you going to be a Green Bay Packer in 2022? Are you going to sign your contract extension? And it's just going to be a heavy, massive cloud that blankets this entire season. So I am not one to back anybody right now. I think both sides are acting immaturely. I think both sides are handling the scenario improperly. And it's honestly, I know that there's the phrase, it's always darkest before the dawn, but I don't think we've gotten to the darkest point yet in the offseason.
I see what your point is, and you are partially correct. Yes, they could have called out Rodgers and let him know that, this was kind of their plan going forward. Publicly, Brian Gutekunst apologized for that. He admitted that he was wrong. What's Aaron Rodgers' response? Going on Instagram. Okay? Understand and acknowledge where you're wrong. And Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur both have. They said, Brian Gutekunst, and I'm paraphrasing, that they could have done it better. They should have done it differently. And they've said that. Okay? You got to understand that nobody is innocent when it comes to this. There isn't a better, person, one side or the other. Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur have done a phenomenal job of putting together this team. Again, Matt LaFleur is a first-time head coach, and he's taken this team. And you can tell the players, fall to him. They love him. They go to him. Again, you're not going to get a pass from me when it's Aaron Rodgers. Again, play better in the NFC Championship game. You're at home. You targeted Davante Adams 3 straight times in the red zone when you had a wide open lane to run, and then you go in your press conference and say, I didn't know it was going to be a field goal. So again, I'm not about the Aaron Rodgers. I'm not on the Aaron Rodgers side. I'm really though, Rhino, I am. And people are laughing because I'm getting worked up. I'm absolutely sick of that guy. I'm sick of who he thinks he is. He hasn't won anything outside of one miraculously gifted Super Bowl in which they went on a run for their lives. He hasn't done anything. What has he done besides win Super Bowls and lose in NFC Championship games? What has he done? What has he done? He had the NFC Championship game at home in his backyard. What did he do? He scored 6 points off of 3 straight turnovers. Is that Brian Gutekunst's fault? Let's blame Mark Murphy for that. You targeted Davante Adams 3 straight times in the red zone when you had a clear area to run and at least get close to the end zone. And then you call out your coach because he decided to kick a field goal. If Matt LaFleur kicked that field goal and Kevin King doesn't hold the jersey of whatever Tampa Bay receiver it was, and the Packers go on to win that game, Matt LaFleur made the greatest move any head coach has. But again, everybody in the world wants to look at poor Aaron Rodgers. Poor Aaron Rodgers. Again, guys, don't forget in 2010 when he beat the Bears, did he play good? No, he did not. He actually was almost outplayed by Caleb Haney. Without a B.J. Raji pick 6, you could be looking at a different storyline. I love Aaron Rodgers. I always defended him as much as I did for any athlete. But I'm at my end with him. I'm absolutely at my end with Aaron Rodgers and the drama that continues to unfold. And again, come out and be a man, dude. Be a man. Say what you want. Davante Adams, get off Instagram, dude. You're a 30-year-old wannabe best receiver in the NFL. Get off Instagram. Get off Instagram and be a man. You want to call people out? Call people out. Don't put a hat emoji on Instagram. Like, no, that's not how professional athletes, that's not how adults handle business.
Well, this is probably a really good time to bring in our good friend, Jacob Wessendorf. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a very special guest today, Jacob Wessendorf of Game On Wisconsin. What's the Twitter at for Game On?
At Game On WI.
At Game On WI. He's working on some big things. He will be up at training camp in Green Bay not next week, the week after, correct?
Thursday, August 5th through Sunday, August 8th.
And he will be at Green Bay Distillery. I know my dad is personally going to go up there and watch as well. So go out and check him out. What's your new project that you just started up, bud? Why don't you shamelessly plug that for us?
Yeah, every Wednesday we have the Pick Six podcast sponsored by Jay Cutler, and at least that's the way I'm going with it. And just every week picking the six topics closest to the Green Bay Packers and maybe around sports as well. So we did talk a little bit about the Bucks this past week. Obviously, I believe, what's the phrase? NBA champion, Milwaukee Bucks. So we did talk about them.
Bucks and six.
That's what I think how that went, right? That's what we talked about a little bit on Thursday with Joe Arrigo. Talked about the inception, the beginning of Game On Wisconsin, and how all that all started. This week I'll have Aaron, our social media extraordinaire, that you guys are all probably familiar with by this point. But it's been a lot of fun. So we'll have that, like I said, every Wednesday. Find us wherever you find podcasts. And then obviously we have live content every weekday during the week, and we'll start our game day stuff up once games start, which is here in about a month and a half.
For those of you who may not be familiar with Game On Wisconsin, even though I'm sure everyone who watches us knows exactly who they are, Jamal Williams has made appearances on Game On Wisconsin podcast, and he actually wore their hat. What game was that?
NFC Championship.
The NFC Championship game. Jamal Williams had the Game On Wisconsin beanie on. So
I was so sure
the game they lost.
I was so sure they were going to win.
Jake, do you want to hang out for a couple Q&As?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, you ready for Q&As? All right, so
Not having a good day.
our first one is going to be, what should we expect from MVS this season, assuming Aaron Rodgers is playing?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, kind of the same stuff, right? I mean, at some point you kind of are what you are. I expect a little bit of improvement on some of the concentration drops and some stuff like that, but he's a home run hitter. And home run hitters, they swing and miss sometimes too. And MVS is going to swing and miss a couple times and miss a couple plays. But he is the player on this offense, the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak, because he's the only one that can get the deep ball. Davante Adams, he's awesome. Well, some people apparently don't think he's that awesome, but he's really good.
Overrated.
And he's really good, but that's not his game. He can't, take the top off the defense that way like MVS can. And, you saw the Jacksonville game comes to mind. The Indianapolis game comes to mind where he's just catching deep balls.
The Bears game.
Yeah, you'll see some of that. Even if Jordan Love's the quarterback, you'll see that too. But if Rodgers is the quarterback, I think you see a little bit more consistency. Catch percentage will probably rise a little bit, but he's their deep ball guy. They're going to drop shot plays for him.
I've actually made the argument that MVS is kind of along the same progression line that Davante Adams was when he started his career. I mean, if you remember the first couple years with Davante, he was drop city. I remember a game against the Chicago Bears where he dropped 2 wide open touchdown passes that literally fell right into his hands. So I think that he's been along the same progression line. Now, obviously, he's a completely different wide receiver than Davante Adams is. Davante Adams is a very versatile wide receiver. You can line him up anywhere on the field. You can run, short, mid, some deep routes. MVS is pretty much going to be your deep route guy, your deep threat guy. He's not going to catch a whole lot of balls, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have the versatility, but I do think he can be a top 5 deep threat in the NFL. So I look for him to have a much improved season. Maybe not as much with Jordan Love, but if Rodgers is there, I think he could have a 800-yard, 6-7 touchdown kind of performance this season. Brandon, did you want to throw down on MVS?
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Next question. What is the expectation for Jordan Love this year if he is starting, and what is the record with Jordan Love at QB? I'll tackle this one first. I think in the Matt LaFleur system and with the roster that this team has around Jordan Love, even if he struggles somewhat if he has a decent, like, rookie-like year, where you're talking maybe 21, 22 touchdowns, 3,800 yards, maybe a 61% completion percentage, you could still be looking at a 10 or 11 win team. They're going to have a top 10 defense. Their linebacker position is going to improve, especially with Joe Barry at the defensive coordinator position. And they're going to have one of the best backfields in football. So the division has not strengthened as much as a lot of people would like you to think it has. The Bears are going to be a 500 team, maybe a little bit lower. Lions will be under 500. And, of course, the Vikings are going to Viking. So I think with Jordan Love at quarterback, they can still be looking at 10 or 11 wins and a division championship.
It could be. I wouldn't bet on that if I were into the wagering of some friendly jelly beans amongst friends. I would never ever do anything that is illegal. But what I will say is with Jordan Love is I expect competence. Can he do the things that he's being asked to do? Yes. What's hanging in the balance here, and I was actually in Milwaukee during your guys' last segment, and I heard Brandon's voice like audibly all the way down there. So, he was talking a little bit about the difference with Aaron Rodgers. What's hanging in the balance, whether Rodgers shows up or not, and it's kind of interesting from a content creator standpoint, frustrating from a fan standpoint. What's hanging in the balance is this team, if Aaron Rodgers is there, is a Super Bowl contender. Bona fide, 100%. You're probably expecting them to play in the divisional round, NFC Championship game, maybe the Super Bowl if a couple things break their way. If he's not there and Jordan Love is there, that's out the window. They're not going to the Super Bowl if Jordan Love is the quarterback, unless just Jordan Love is something that surpasses every expectation possible. Can they still win the division? Yes, if Jordan Love is the quarterback, and with the progression that they have. I don't know that I would bet on that. I think what you'll have is kind of the division winner would be like the cream of the crop, like a 10-7 division winner, 9-7 from the passion, something like that, where, yeah, they're good enough, but, can Jordan Love do some of the things that Aaron Rodgers does throughout the course of the game? Not yet. In the future, maybe. From a physical talent standpoint, it's all there. They just need to put that all together. But his first year, you're hoping for progression that he gets better, like in 2008 Aaron Rodgers, but adjusted for era. So he gets better throughout the season. But by the end of the year, you're feeling pretty good about your quarterback situation in 2022.
Brandon, I want you to tackle this Jordan Love question because you obviously are upset with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. So let's get some positivity out of you about the potential of Jordan Love being quarterback.
Yeah, there's some positivity. There's not going to be any drama. It's going to be about football and what he can do or maybe what he cannot do. And again, for our friends down in Chicago that want to anoint Justin Fields as a Hall of Fame savior, he's played as many downs as Justin Fields has, and vice versa. Jordan Love is a prospect. Like let's call it a spade a spade. That's what he is. We don't know. He didn't have an offseason last year. Keep in mind, for everybody out there that wants to hate on Jordan Love, the guy didn't have a preseason. He didn't have off-season programs. This basically is a rookie year for him. And obviously there's going to be, some bumps on the road. But I think what you're going to get out of Jordan Love, again, I would also say, I'm not going to say, I'm kind of with Jacob, I'm not going to say that Jordan Love is going to take them to a Super Bowl or get them to a Super Bowl. But in this system, Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl. It has shown Aaron Rodgers. Nobody wants to talk about that 2018 season where Aaron Rodgers was completely horrible. But again, this system has shown that it favors the quarterback. It's easier for the quarterback to be successful than maybe their talent allows them. So I think what you're going to get out of Jordan Love is a guy that's not going to deviate from the play. He's not going to run what he wants to run. If he sees an open lane on 3rd and 8 from the Packer or from the Tampa Bay's 8-yard line in the end zone, he's going to run it in and possibly go ahead and take the score in the Packers' favor and not sit there and target one specific receiver 3 straight downs. So what you're going to get out of Jordan Love is, number one, there's not going to be any drama. Number two, he's going to do what he's asked. Now, is he going to be the best at it? Arguably not. He's going to be learning along the way. But I think what you're going to get out of Jordan Love is exactly what Matt LaFleur is going to want out of Jordan Love. He's first read, second read, third read, whatever it's going to be, you're going to get. He's not. I love when the Packers win. I love Aaron Rodgers, love Davante Adams. I don't want to make it seem like I don't love them. I'm tired of the drama. I'm sick and tired of the nonsense that doesn't need to happen. We've seen them a lot too. Those 4 games that Davante Adams went out, the Packers were 3-1, and they were really good. What we see with Aaron Rodgers is a lot of times, and rightfully so, Davante is one of the best in the NFL. He likes to sit on Davante Adams a lot. a lot. He likes to sit and watch him a lot. So again, not saying that that's a bad thing, but what you're going to get Jordan on Love, he's going to find the right read. He's going to go off of what the defense is giving him, and he's going to go off of exactly what Matt LaFleur and those guys, offensive coordinator, his name is slipping my mind, but that you're going to get exactly what the offense is calling for.
Next question in the Q&A segment on the Titletown Lounge podcast. Don't forget, we are at Coyote Bar and Grill in Belgium, Wisconsin. Lovely Belgium. Just a shout out for them real quick. Friday, August 6th, they are doing a free root beer float and hot dog grill out to support Mel's Charities and the Belgium Fire Department. Compliments of Jolly Good and Cedar Crest ice cream. Now, this one's actually a pretty good question. This is coming from my future cousin-in-law, Jake, over here. Who will have a breakout year for the team? Now, I want to ask real quick, is that specifically a rookie or anybody? Anybody. Who will have a breakout season for the Green Bay Packers? And I immediately have an answer for this. It's going to be A.J. Dillon. I've spoke about this on the show a couple of times with the new backfield that the Packers have, Jamal Williams obviously being in Detroit. I think you're going to have quite a bit of thunder and lightning with the backfield in Green Bay. I've said on multiple occasions I think they could be a top 3 backfield. And I think what really sets them apart from other backfields, other dual running back systems, is the difference between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon is night and day. I mean, these are 2 completely different running backs, and it's impossible to prepare for what you can expect out of that backfield. I mean, first of all, if A.J. Dillon starts catching passes out of the backfield, watch out NFL. I mean, this guy could have an unbelievable season. But how can you prepare with the agility and the speed and the playmaking ability for Aaron Jones and the bruiser effect of A.J. Dillon? How do you prepare for that and expect to know what exactly they're going to do? If you see both of those lined up in the backfield, can you assume that Aaron Jones is running up the middle? Can you assume that he's running to the outside? Can you assume that A.J. Dillon is running up the middle? It's such a versatile backfield, and I think because of that X factor, it's going to be A.J. Dillon, I think, has the best breakout season for the Packers in 2021. Jake, what are you thinking?
There's only one player on the team that's actually related to me, and it's my son, and that's Rashawn Gary, the outside linebacker.
Damn it, that was mine.
From Michigan. So since it's Brandon's, I'll let him have that, and I'll let him talk because I feel like it's nepotism if I pick him. So I'm going to pick Darnell Savage because I think by the end of last year, we started to see that light bulb come on. And I know the name Nick Collins gets invoked a lot when we start talking about Packers safeties, but that is kind of what it looked like. He has the speed and the ability to change the game on the back end of the Packers defense, and they can move him all over the place. He can play in the slot, do some stuff there. He can play in the box and do some stuff there. He had a really couple of nice plays. There's one against Chicago in the final game last season that sticks out. I have him play in the backfield he had there. I think Savage is somebody that by the end of the year, the best player in the Packers defense is Jair Alexander. After that, you can have a discussion between like Kenny Clark, Zadarius Smith, etc. By the end of the year, I think what the Packers are thinking and hoping is that Savage and Gary are the 2 names that are in the top. So, Brandon, you've seen pictures of my daughter. Now, please talk about my son.
I think it's going to be Rashawn Gary and Jacob, and you and I have talked about this offline before. You kind of seen flashes of it last year. I think like since week 16 to the end of the Super Bowl, he was one of the top, I believe it was in the top 2-3 edge rushers. And I think you're going to see kind of that freak athlete come out. Look, it's again, a guy that Brian Gutekunst was crucified for drafting. He was a prospect. He was like, I believe, Jacob, I could be wrong, but he was like the number 1 athlete to come out when he committed to Michigan. A lot of people talk about his production at Michigan. He was consistently double and triple teamed. Just turn on the flip, stop scrolling through Twitter and getting your facts. He was consistently double and triple teamed at Michigan. And then he comes to Green Bay. And in the same offseason, you acquire Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, which is great. Again, Aaron Rodgers, it's for the people. You got a really good defense. So he goes and gets 2 edge rushers in free agency, and Rashawn Gary kind of takes a back seat to both of them, which is great because there's not a better team in football that drafts and develops better than the Green Bay Packers. So you take a prospect, a rare, really a guy that has everything really right there, the intangibles, everything on field that he can produce. I think you're going to see that come out this year, and he's been learning behind Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. Zadarius, if you're looking to sell your house, you can go too. I don't care anymore at this point. Everybody can go. I think Rashawn Gary is going to take that step, and I'm going to take another person that's going to come out. Jordan Love. You're going to see the athlete and the quarterback and the arm strength that Jordan Love has. He's been compared to Patrick Mahomes. That may be a stretch. We'll see. People that all three of us are familiar with have seen him in practice, closed practice, behind closed doors, and say that this guy is the real deal. And you're going to see it. Again, Rhino, I said this on my show. If Jordan Love is playing at Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, wherever, he's a top 5 pick in that year. I mean, he's got everything that he needs. So again, I think it's going to be Rashawn Gary. You're going to see a lot more of him. And I think, and eventually, I think the Packers do move on from Aaron Rodgers. And I think Jordan Love is going to show everybody what he's got.
I like that. I do like. I absolutely love Rashawn Gary. I mean, one of the criticisms about him too, when he was drafted, is his work ethic in Michigan, and his drive wasn't necessarily there. And you can argue whether or not that was the case at Michigan, but I can tell you this right now: what I physically witnessed from Rashawn Gary towards the end of last year is that dude played every single down like it was the last down he was ever going to have in the NFL.
Okay, hold on. Let me argue with that real quick, because I will argue that that's not the case. So I keep this quiet because it's embarrassing, but I am a Michigan football fan. Don Brown, Jim Harbaugh, two guys that do not mince words at all. If you are loafing, they tell you. And those guys said all the time. One, Don Brown said he was our best defensive player for those years. Every player that was drafted that year, Rashawn Gary, Devin Bush, Chase Winovich, David Long, all said Rashawn Gary was their best player. Two, they said they have no idea where that work ethic comes from. You've seen since he's coming to the league.
So you weren't necessarily arguing with me.
No, just that stupidity in general.
Okay,
yes,
all right. No, I was just saying that was one of the arguments that was made about him.
I would never argue with you.
I bring Jake on for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he takes over like it's Game On Wisconsin podcast. No, the point that I was making was that was one of the comments that was made about him for some reason. I don't know where that came from, but one of his draft analysis was, his motor's not always there, his drive isn't always there, and I despise Michigan with a deep-hearted passion. So I didn't watch a whole lot of Rashawn Gary at Michigan, but I can tell you what I saw when he was in Green Bay, especially this last year. That dude played every down like it was the last down he was ever going to play in pads. And he never quit. I mean, how many times did we see Rashawn Gary on the opposite side of the field when the play went away from his position?
Yeah.
So it's very well within the realm of possibility that he's probably the breakout star for Green Bay next year. I do think it's A.J. Dillon. This next question comes from the one and only Godfather himself, my dad. Who will be the third safety in Green Bay? Now, in the base defense, you're only going to see two safeties. Darnell Savage obviously being the number one safety in Green Bay. And I think, a lot of the nickel packages you're probably going to see Eric Stokes in the slot. I don't know if you're ever going to see three safeties on the field a whole lot in Green Bay at one time. What do you think?
That's a good question. I think that, they played a lot of dime with Mike Pettin, and obviously they used Will Redmond in that role, Raven Green in that role. The answer, I think, is actually Vernon Scott, and he was a seventh-round pick last year, played really well in small spurts. Now, small samples mean small chance of exposure. So maybe some of the things he doesn't do as well weren't exposed because he hasn't been out there yet. But he's the first guy I think in line for that. I know a lot of people really liked Raven Green, but he was let go for a reason. Availability is the most important ability, and he kind of struggled to stay on the field at some points through his Green Bay career. I think that Scott's a good place to start. Will Redmond will get his cracks there. He'll be on the team for special teams, if nothing else, too. Henry Black had a forced fumble in one game, and everybody kind of has that name out there. But I'd like to see more of him. It's like, well, yeah, when he plays 4 plays and one of them's forced fumble, that's obviously a great thing to have on the field. So I think Scott's your guy that finds his way onto the field if they start using that 3-4 safety look. The other thing to note here is it's a new defensive coordinator, so we think we kind of know what some things will look like, but we really don't until we see it on the field.
Yeah, with that Joe Barry scheme, I mean, I don't think you're going to see a lot of dime coverage unless the scenario calls for it. So having 3 safeties on the field at one time might be something that's few and far between. But yeah, I mean that's great stuff. We're going to move on to a couple more questions here. This one we can go back just real quick because this one does extend beyond Rashawn Gary. How many sacks can be expected this year between Smith, Gary, and Clark? I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of sack numbers out of Clark. I mean, obviously he does have a great ability to get into the backfield, but I don't think you're going to see his sack numbers incline a whole lot. I do look for Preston Smith to have a bounce back year, especially in this new Joe Barry system. We're obviously not going to be seeing him in coverage. We're not going to be seeing him lined up against a wide receiver 10 yards off the ball. At least I hope we literally never see something like that again. The word on the street is that he came into camp a little bit in better shape than he was in 2020. I don't know if you can use COVID as an excuse for that, because that would be, him to blame. But I do see a bounce back here from Smith. And if Joe Barry is the linebacker guru that he is touted to be, if he's going to come in and make the middle linebacker play that much better, and we bolster down the interior portion of the defensive line, you should see increased production out of Zadarius Smith. And if we're seeing increased production out of Zadarius Smith, and if Rashawn Gary is playing, better, if he's improving the way we think he's going to improve, I think you're going to see the sack numbers skyrocket in Green Bay. I could see them potentially being a top 10, even top 5 team in terms of sack totals. I'm going to let Brandon tackle this one next, because I know he loves those edge rushers.
I'm gonna disagree for a little bit with what you said. I think you're going to see the sack numbers for Kenny Clark go up, because what's lost behind all of this drama is that the Packers had a really good draft. They really had a very strong, needs-heavy draft, and I think T.J. Slayton is going to be a guy that you see kind of step into that Dean Lowry, Kyle Lancaster role, provide a little bit of depth at the defensive line position. And I think you're going to see Kenny Clark has reportedly lost 20 pounds. He's a little bit slimmer than what he was at his playing weight last year. I think you're going to see a guy have his numbers go up, especially, Rhino, if Zadarius and Preston are providing what we're used to seeing. Obviously, Preston was a little bit out of shape last year. He admitted that. We could all see it. I think, like you said, he is a little bit slimmer. You got that pressure on the outside with the Smith brothers. Joe Barry is a genius, for whatever reason, at developing inside linebackers. I think you're going to see the middle of the Packers defense improve. I don't want to say dramatically, but you're going to see it improve. And I think you're going to see Kenny Clark's numbers go up. To give you a total, I don't know. I just think it's going to go up pretty good. I think it's going to be a pretty good defense. Again, for the people, of course.
This is what I want to end the show with, gentlemen. And I want to ask this question. We got Jake here, too, so we'll have a third input. At the end of the day, week 1, who is under center and who is lined up out wide as the number 1 wide receiver? We'll start with you, Brandon.
Good question. Jordan Love and Davante Adams. I think it's pretty kind of set in stone right now. Even if Aaron Rodgers wanted to come back, how do you walk back in that locker room?
So let me ask you this real quick, and I'll let you jump back right back in there. What do you think happens? Is he traded or does he sit out this year?
I think he probably holds out. I don't know. His trade value has obviously gone down because of, since the draft night, everybody knows, that there's obviously an issue. I don't think and I said it on previous shows, what is the return for Aaron Rodgers? He's the 3-time MVP. He just won the MVP. Big thanks to Matt LaFleur and his offense. But I don't know, what you're going to get back from him in a trade. I don't think you could live with yourself for trading that guy of his caliber. So I think he's probably going to sit. Davante Adams, like we have heard him say, he's from, wherever in California. He grew up poor, so he's going to show up and play. Whether he has an extension or not, you're going to see Davante Adams show up in week 1. Jordan Love is going to be your starter. I think there's too much with Aaron Rodgers. Too much has been dragged behind both front offense. Again, nobody's innocent. But again, we're grown men, professional athletes, multimillionaires. They need to act better on both sides. But I do not see Aaron Rodgers returning in Green Bay.
Jake, same question.
I do think Aaron Rodgers shows up. I think that's a lot of money to give up, and I know he can afford it. If there's anyone who's weird enough to do it, it's definitely him. That being said, he's working out. He's getting ready to play football. I don't think he's going to not play football because the guys that he's allegedly, because we have no idea what the hell he wants and what the hell he's pissed off at, but the guys that he's theoretically upset with, Brian Gutekunst, Mark Murphy, you don't have to interact with those guys. And I can't picture him. Say what you will about Aaron Rodgers, and there's plenty of valid criticism to have about him. From a teammate perspective, he's a good teammate by all accounts from most of the people that have come out of that locker room at least. I can't envision him telling Devontae and Mercedes Lewis and David Bakhtiari, hey, go scratch, good luck, but I'm not coming back because I don't know what I can say on the show, but F those guys. Essentially.
No Fs. No, you can say S's and D's, but no Fs.
No Fs. Got it. Okay, so F those guys. I'm not coming back to play for those guys. I can't picture him doing that. I think Davante Adams is back, and I know we were talking about this. I think Davante Adams is a Packer beyond 2021. I have yet to see, other than I did come up with more. I was wrong. So, Ryan, you brought up Jared Cook in the message group we have. That is one. The other one that is more like what I'm thinking, a guy they drafted, a guy that's been there for a long time.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers might end up being one. Greg Jennings was the name that came up, so I guess that's another receiver. But I think
they actually did offer him the contract. He specifically didn't want it. So
he chose Minnesota.
Yeah.
I've heard some things. I'm not going to be the guy that tells you things that are like kind of made up that I think I know. Yeah. I know some people might do that, but that's not going to be me in this case. But that's one. I think Adams gets a deal. The Packers very rarely lose out on guys that they want for something like that. So I think Adams does get a deal done. They'll figure it out. Andrew Brandt basically said, like, what this means is we'll pay you, just not right now. So I think Adams gets a deal. I think Rodgers is your quarterback, and we all just kind of sit there and understand that the last game Green Bay loses or wins is the last game Aaron Rodgers plays in the Packers uniform.
Brandon, did you want to hop back in there real quick?
Jacob, do you see Davante Adams getting a deal if Aaron Rodgers is not there?
Yeah.
Beyond.
Yeah, I do. I think that empirical evidence and historical evidence is that when do receiver, like we hear it all the time, why would a receiver go play, like Allen Robinson? We make fun of him all the time because you could have played with Aaron Rodgers and you chose to play with Mitchell Trubisky. Like quarterback receivers, like if he's going to go to the Raiders and play with Derek Carr is essentially in the same situation next year that Aaron Rodgers is in now. So you're going to choose to go play with the Raiders to maybe play 1 year with Derek Carr and then start over at quarterback? I don't think so. I think he's got an opportunity to make a lot of money in Green Bay, break a lot of records, and honestly position himself to get into the Hall of Fame. Because if you get to that point where it's like, hey, you're the all-time leading receiver for a franchise that had Sterling Sharp, Don Hudson, Donald Driver, some really good receivers, and I didn't even mention James Lofton. You break those records, you have a really good resume for the Hall of Fame. So I think the Adams thing, the Rodgers thing is real. The rift with the organization, that's real. The Adams thing, that's real. They've broken off contracts. I think that'll come back. The Zadarius Smith thing, I read the article. There's nothing in there that suggests he wants out.
That's a Florio article.
He's just not stupid. He understands that, hey, next year my cap charge is $29 million. I'm probably not going to be kept at that figure. So I need an extension or I'm going to get cut. But, yeah, I think those guys – Adams is back. Rodgers is playing in Denver next year. And the Packers have $1 million first-round picks.
So in terms of those two specifically, I think both Rodgers and Adams are back in 2021. I do think both of them are gone in 2022, and here's the reason why. You've already re-signed Kenny Clark, you've already re-signed Aaron Jones, and you've already re-signed David Bakhtiari. On top of those guys that you've already re-signed, you have the potential Aaron Rodgers contract extension, you have the potential Davante Adams extension, but you also have in the shadows creeping up, you have a Zadarius Smith extension that's waiting. You have a Jair Alexander extension that's waiting. You have a Darnell Savage extension that is waiting. These are all contracts that are going to be negotiated over the next couple of years. And you're staring down the barrel of being $20 million plus over the cap in 2022. There's only so many people you're going to be able to re-sign. Aaron Rodgers is 1,000% not going to be one of those guys you re-sign for multiple reasons. Obviously, the drama that has encapsulated this offseason all year so far. And let's really ask this question genuinely. Is Davante Adams, at his age, the guy that you want to make the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL and give the 4 years to going forward? When you have other defensive pieces that you'd rather keep who are younger, who are going to have more years left in their career? The answer to me is no. If I had to choose between Zadarius, Jair, Darnell, and Adams is going to be fourth on that list of guys I want to give an extension to. Now, that's not taking anything away from Adams whatsoever. Adams is obviously the best wide receiver in the NFL. It's a very small debate that you can make that he's not. But at the same time, I don't think there is a debate you can make that Jair Alexander is the best cornerback in the NFL. Za'Darius Smith is obviously a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. Darnell Savage is making his way up the list of the best safeties in the NFL. So if we are a futuristic, envisioned front office, I mean, it's obvious that they're going to make the better decision with the defensive guys, the younger guys. And I think both Adams and Rodgers are gone after this season. I think there's a reason why they posted the last dance picture on Instagram. They know that this is their last dance. I think the only way that Adams would stay in Green Bay is if Love was the quarterback this season and Love balled out in his first year. And if Adams had that, I'm not going to call it a guarantee because obviously anything can happen with NFL players, but if Adams had that confidence that, okay, this next quarterback in Green Bay is going to be good, I'm going to stay here and ball out, then he would stay. But I don't think we're going to have that in Green Bay. I think Rodgers is going to be back. We're not going to see what Love is capable for another year. So I think both Adams and Rodgers are gone. Hopefully we can win a Super Bowl with them before their time is up. But I think in 2022, you're going to see a whole new era in Green Bay with personnel.
I don't disagree with that. What I think you're going to see, too, is you're going to see a lot of the money go towards the defense, especially if it is going forward going to be a Jordan Love-led team. You're going to see a team kind of like what the Rams did with Jared Goff. You know, obviously he was surrounded by talent offensively, but they had really, really good defense in that Super Bowl year in 2017. So I think you're going to see a lot of that money, again, for the people. Aaron Rodgers is getting paid 40% of the salary one player, again, for the people. So maybe when he's gone, the people can get paid. There is one question, though. We got a viewer on Facebook. Shout out to Brian. He posts a question. I'll throw it up to you guys. If Rodgers does sit out or retire, do you think Jordan Love can lead us to the playoffs, or will the growing pains in his first year be too much to overcome? I will toss it over to you guys and let you take care of that.
So we kind of covered this with another Q&A question that we had. I don't think this division is strong enough to give Jordan Love too many problems. Now, this obviously all depends on Jordan Love. And actually, one thing I want to throw in here before I really get into the nitty-gritty of this answer is Jordan Love's development is really all going to depend on Matt LaFleur. If Matt LaFleur is the coach we all think that he is, if Matt LaFleur is the quarterback guru we have been led to believe, you know, he did get Matt Ryan an MVP trophy at a Super Bowl appearance. He's obviously turned around Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay, and he has won another MVP in Green Bay. If Matt LaFleur is the coach we think he is, Jordan Love should succeed. He should be a quality quarterback. I'm not saying top 10, top 5, anything like that, but he should be a quality quarterback. This upcoming season, the 2021 season, if it is Jordan Love, I do think he is capable of leading them to a division championship. The roster around Love, and I've made this comment to actually Jake when Jake was on our show about a month and a half ago. I said that this roster is the best roster a first-year quarterback has ever taken over in the entire history of the NFL. If Love does take over. I don't think there has ever been a quarterback in his first year of starting that has ever had a better roster around him. You're talking about a top 10 defense, the best left tackle in football, a top 5 running back, top 5 edge rusher, the best cornerback in football, and other pieces obviously around him, Kenny Clark, Aaron Jones, what have you. So Matt LaFleur is really the X factor in whether or not Jordan Love can lead the Packers to a playoff appearance. So I think it's more on the coach than it is the quarterback, to be honest with you.
They got all those pieces in Green Bay?
That's what I heard. No weapons in Green Bay, but all those pieces are on the Packers. So I kind of covered this a little bit ago, so I won't take too long. But he can, if Jordan Love is the starting quarterback, I think you could see anything between I keep thinking 16 games in my head, but the 2008 Packers were 6-10, but they were in a bunch of games, and then the next year they really took off with Aaron Rodgers in the second year. I just think you are going to see those growing pains. The difference this year obviously being some of the rosters around on the other teams aren't as strong as they were maybe back then, or as close to where the Packers were in 2008. So if Love can be competent, yeah, they could be 9-10-7, 9-8, something like that. Maybe win 11 or 12 games if a few things bounce their way, but I think a fair expectation would certainly be if you told me they were going to miss the playoffs, Jordan Love, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be right there on the bubble. They're going to be right there on the line if it is Jordan Love. I don't think it's going to be Jordan Love. I hope, and here's the reason why I hope it's not Jordan Love. I hope it's not Jordan Love because this roster is built to win right now. It's built to win this season. We don't know what it's going to be in 2022 because we have the question marks looming about the upcoming contract extensions. I spoke about it before: Adams, Za'Darius, Jair, etc. So I genuinely hope it's Aaron Rodgers under center week 1, and I do think they can make a real run at a Super Bowl. Would that not, Brandon? Let's put the frustration aside for a second. Would that not be just like peaceful bliss if after everything that has happened this offseason that they just mess around and go 13-4, win a Super Bowl, and right off into the sunset? Would you be honest? Would you be happy?
Yes, like I would. I watched my favorite athlete win a championship this week. It wouldn't overtake Giannis winning an NBA Finals, but it would be right there along those lines. I'm with you guys. Like I'm with you. I want the best for my team. I'm just sick of the mind games, and it's frustrating as a fan because Rhino, you just said it, man. Best cornerback, best left tackle, arguably the best defensive line, top 3 running back, top receiver, guys that people said we couldn't re-sign. We re-signed. We did it for who? To put the best team around the best quarterback in the NFL. And to get on Instagram and to have your buddy Teller, whatever his name is, no-name actor, I can't even think of his name, have a toast to signing with the Packers.
He played Reed Richards, okay?
So, like, I'm over it. Like, yes, I would be happy that they won the Super Bowl. Obviously, I would celebrate. If Aaron Rodgers is there in week 1 and throws 4 touchdowns, I will be happy and I will celebrate. But it becomes a point when enough is enough, dude. And I like, how are you going to walk in that locker room? Maybe you're not entirely right though, Rhino. Like, yes, he's our best chance at winning. How is he going to be looked at in that locker room if he does come back? If he does come back and he's the better quarterback, obviously, than Jordan Love right now, does that translate to winning a Super Bowl?
So I can tell you this, and I'm gonna make this one last point, and then we'll wrap it up here because I know we're kind of getting into overtime here. I can tell you this, even with the tension that would exist in the locker room with Aaron Rodgers after everything that has transpired during this offseason, I can tell you right now, if they start the season 5-1, 6-1, he's out there slinging 3-4 touchdowns a week, no one's gonna give a shit. Because they know that they're about to have the best opportunity of winning a Super Bowl they will probably ever have in their entire career. So, yeah, there is going to be tension in the locker room when he comes back on Tuesday. But if they're, if he's out there playing the same way he did last year, if they're out there winning games, if they're leading the division, no one's going to care in that locker room.
Their best chance at winning was last year. Home field, warm weather team in Lambeau, and that Hall of Fame quarterback couldn't get his eyes off of Devontae and get a touchdown. That's your best chance.
I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I don't think there will be tension at all. I think players are so laser focused and they want to win this year.
I think there's going to be just, I'm not going to call it animosity, but I think there is going to be that little bit of like, when he walks into the locker room for the first time, I guarantee you there's at least half a dozen guys that are sitting at the locker like, oh, thanks for showing up. Yeah, it's about time.
There could be a couple guys like that. I actually think there would be more
to counteract his point. I think once they're on a roll, once they're winning, once he's playing as the best quarterback in the NFL, that'll all be gone. That won't impact this team at all once they get on a roll.
Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback.
Will you go home? All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up for the day. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. Thank you all the family members that came out to watch us live at Coyote Bar and Grill in Belgium, Wisconsin, and, of course, the crowd. Thank you to Kyle Simpson, proprietor of Coyote Bar and Grill. If you are in the Milwaukee area, stop by. $1 Busch Lights, some of the best burgers I've ever had in my entire life. Brandon's going to get some Parmesan garlic wings once we are off the mic here.
Like Adam says, I'm hangry right now.
You are a little hangry. But it's all right, man. I mean, we all got to eat, right? Thanks for tuning in. You can check out the podcast on Twitter at Titletown Lounge. I am at Twitter at Rhino Sport. Excuse me. What's my at?
Sports Talk Rhino.
Sports Talk Rhino. And Brandon's is at Wisco_Brandon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and have a great Sunday.